So welcome to today's episode. So I'm going to keep this one very short. This is about theory of constraints and how this applies to your life in a big way. So in life is really a system. You've got inputs, you've got outputs. It's a system which you can manage. And there's a theory called theory of constraints. Now this was actually designed more for business, but it can be applied to anything. It can be applied to life. Guy who came up with this whole theory, his name was Ellie Goldratt, and he wrote a book about it. I forget the title, but I'll put a reference to it. But basically, the theory of constraints says that when you have this system with inputs and outputs, there's things holding back the level of output, but there's always one thing which is holding back the outputs more than anything else, and that is your biggest constraint. Now, let me put this back more into terms for your life. The amount of success you're having in your life, whether it's the amount of money you're making, your health, your fitness, your level of happiness in your relationships, those are all outputs, and they all have inputs. They all have things that you have to put in to get the outputs. There's always going to be one thing which if you will just focus, if you will isolate and focus on that one thing and focus on making it wider, then your overall level of output or happiness or results will increase. So I'm going to show you this on the whiteboard. Let's go to the seminar room and I'll draw it for you. Let's go. So I'm in the seminar room now. I know that it was a little bit theoretical out there, so let me try and make this more practical so you can see how this applies in your own life. So life, it's like any system, any business system, it all applies. It's a manageable system. It's got inputs, it's got outputs. So the inputs over here, you've got inputs on this side, okay? Inputs, let's talk about health and fitness. Inputs are going to be those obvious things. It's like the food you're putting in your body, it's the exercise, are you getting enough rest? Those are inputs. The outputs over here, this is going to be your results. How much do you weigh? How lean are you? Your body fat percentage, all of that stuff. How energetic do you feel? When you have any system, you're going to have the inputs going in, you have the output. And you'll notice that there are a number of limiting constraints. So imagine that these are like pipelines, and some of these are more constraining than others. Okay, so one of these could represent food, for example. It's the food you're putting in your body. Another one could represent exercise. Another one could represent the amount of sleep. One of them is limiting the outputs that this whole system is producing more than any other constraint. So rather than spreading your attention, your focus on widening all the constraints and trying to generalize, what the theory of constraints says that you should do instead is isolate that one constraint which is holding you back more than anything else, and you should focus everything on that. You should focus on fixing that one constraint. And if you do that, that will increase the amount of outputs more than anything else you could possibly do. Now, this is not just for health and fitness, this is for anything in your life. So I'll give you a few practical examples. So if I apply this theory of constraints to my own life here in Costa Rica, which I often do, I often think about what am I doing or what am I not doing? What's holding me back more than anything else? One of the biggest things that I struggle with right here is lack of time. And I know that sounds generalized, right? Everyone's got that problem, lack of time. Here in Costa Rica, things take a lot longer than they do in many other countries. Little basic things that you might want to do. So for example, if you need to go to the bank, you could easily spend half a day at the bank. Just things move very slow, waiting in queues. You got to go and fix something on your phone or get a SIM card. Things like that take a very long time here, and everything moves slower. And I find in my own life here, I spend a lot of time running little errands. That's a big constraint to me. Now, throughout most of my 20s, I didn't really have that problem because I had a very different situation. I had a lot more people working with me. I had, at one point, hundreds of people working with me in my company. And one of the first things that I did, as soon as I could afford to do that, was I hired a lot of people around me who could focus on things that anyone could do to free up my time. So running errands, for example, or doing my shopping. I never used to do any of my own shopping. I had people who would go and do that. Just basic everyday things. And it freed up my time and it allowed me to focus on my big project at that time. Now things here are a little bit different because at the time of recording this, we have the coronavirus in a full effect. I don't have a lot of staff here right now. And so I find that I'm spending an enormous amount of my time running errands, and that takes my focus away from the primary thing that I want to be focused on right now, which is my business, my main project. Okay, another example, I was talking off camera to someone and they told me that several years ago they used to drink alcohol and too much, and it was just impacting their life a lot. Okay, it was affecting everything. And one day they decided to completely go sober and to stop drinking and just cut it out of their life. And the day that they did that, everything else improved. Everything else improved. That was their one big constraint, the alcohol. Every one of us right now, we have a constraint. There's one of these little pathways from inputs to outputs, which is holding you back in life. And the big thing I want you to take away from this video is don't put all of your attention on every single throughput and working to improve each of them. Instead, focus all of your energy and focus on finding what is the biggest constraint and then figure out how to remove it or alleviate it. Okay, so think about that in your own life. What is the biggest constraint holding you back? I hope that helps you in some way. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.